I have been wanting to like have this conversation sooner, and I almost like couldn't think of like the perfect lens that I wanted to put it through. And then I was like, whatever. We're just gonna talk about it like this. It doesn't need to be like framed perfectly, but there is just this lesson that I feel like is so important for all of us. I know I wish I would have learned it sooner in my business. I feel like so many of my clients, when it like really clicks for them, things just speed up exponentially. And it's kind of interesting. And I don't feel like I hear it talked about that much. Hey, Julie. Like, and I think that sometimes when it does get talked about, um, it's in a very like, almost like, I don't know, like very woo manifestation way, which like I'm all about that. I'm a woo girl, don't get me wrong. But I want to like really ground it. Like I feel like there's a lot of very practical pieces about this that, we need to talk about a lot more hastily. Um, so let's get into it. As always, if you're here, um, any comment, hi, whatever, you're entered to win $100 gift card or any of my products just because I so value and appreciate you spending your time with me in the middle of your time with me in the middle of the day on a Monday. So thank you. Hey, Kate. Um, Okay, so I'm just gonna get right into the thing, and then we're gonna talk about like a million examples, application, how to do it, all the things. But I really believe one of the biggest secrets to success is to stop contradicting yourself. And I think that so many of us slow our momentum so significantly, and I cannot say that with enough emphasis, so significantly, um, by being in contradiction a lot. And I think our industry really feeds this contradiction. Um, so let me give you a few examples of it, but like the through line here is the secret to success is to stop contradicting yourself. Um, so a lot of contradictions that show up for women in business. We're going to get into some specific ones, but I'll just like rattle off a couple really quickly just to like land the plane on what I mean here. Um, Number one is like, I really, really want to like massively grow and have a big team, but equally, like, I want to be in a season of like total spaciousness and freedom. Those are often really big contradictions. Like when you're in a growth and build season, it's also really, really hard to be in a season of like total spaciousness. And I know that like we want all of it all at once, all the time. And like there's nothing wrong with like wanting all the things. And equally, that constant contradiction that comes in with those things. So it's like you're growing, and then you're like, wait, but I should be creating more spaciousness. Like, this is not what I want. I'm wrong. And then you jump over here and you try to create more spaciousness. And so you do. And then you're like, no, 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 this isn't right either. I should be growing more. And then you jump back over here. And all of this slows momentum on every front, right? Like the jumping back and forth, the refocusing, the making every piece wrong, no matter how much you're doing. It's all a contradiction, and it all massively slows down the momentum you could build toward any one specific goal. And so the point isn't that you can't have, big goals and spaciousness. The point is you typically need to focus on one of those as the primary factor at any one time, right? And then move back and forth, right? Between what those priorities are at any given time instead of the contradiction, right? Kate said this contradiction is such a challenge with ADHD business builders who struggle to filter. Totally. And I think that's so fair. And equally, I think the industry makes it so much worse, right? Because there's such contradiction in all of the messaging, right? Like every single thing kind of comes out with you with like, you should have it all at once, all right now. And if you don't, something is wrong with you. And so then we internalize that so much. Like I should have it all at once, all at right time. And if I don't, something is wrong with me. Like that thing is whatever that is, that message, that narrative we get fed is fucked. I think it's especially fucked as like women and mothers and caretakers who often have other really contradicting priorities in our lives too, of like, I need to take care of my partner or my child or whatever. And so all of it can get really scrambled in our brains. And what we end up in is this thing where even if we've built momentum in one direction, we're making ourselves wrong there so much that we typically stop that momentum, like often on accident, because we're like, well, must not be doing it right. I must need to go over here, you know? Um, Maggie said, yes, I call it yes, no energy, and it happens in marriages too. Oh, Lacey, yes, I'm picking up what you're putting down. Maggie, say more about the yes, no energy, because I feel like that could be really good. And then Kate, tell me if you agree if the like contradiction narrative in our space is also like what really impacts people with ADHD, because you're saying like the struggle to filter. I mean, I know it's not just filter external information, it's like internal too, but anyway, curious about both of those things that y'all said. But this is big. And I think it's like, yes, it relates to goals sometimes, but it's even bigger than goals even. Right. So one example that I think happens for a lot of people that I really want to name here is social. So a lot of people, I think, have a thing where they're like, and not a lot. I'm saying a lot in our space overall, but I'm not saying like everyone feels this way. Where they like hate social media and then equally think like that's where they have to grow. And it's such a massive contradiction of like, I really, really, really dislike this thing. And it's supposed to be the entire vehicle on which my business grows and is built. Like that friction is almost too much for your business, for your brain, for your body to hold, right? And so we have to solve that in some way. We have to either go, okay, well, we have to figure out how to get you liking social, having fun with it, having a more positive relationship with it, or we have to go over here and we have to get you being like, fuck it, social's not it for me. But this like staying in this middle place of total contradiction of like, I hate this thing and I'm supposed to be using this thing is so difficult. And when I say like, I hate this thing, I don't mean like, now you have to be on it all day and you have to be like this massive social media consumer and whatever. Like, of course not. You're allowed to have like boundaries and you're allowed to whatever, but like you have to, arc toward the positive there if you want it to be the entire thing on which your foundation is built, right? Um, Maggie said, yes, no, I want this. Give it to me. Yes, yes, yes. I'm scared to have this. Some part of me is not on board with it. No, no, no. And then it generates feeling stuck and you can't figure it out and you can't figure out why. And it's just, where do we need to get fully on board with yes or allow the no? Perfect. I love that. Fully on board with yes or allow the no. Love it. So good. Exactly what we were saying with social. Like, okay, yes, I want to build on social. Let me get fully on board with it. Let me start finding ways that I can orient to social in a positive way or see it as a positive thing. Or I have to get fully on board with my no and just be like, I'm not going to build in that way. And that's okay too. Heather said, I think it's helpful to work on discernment to combat the tendency to flip flop between opposite ends of a contradiction. Yes, exactly. Like there can be negative parts of social that you do not prefer or like, and you can have discernment around those. And equally, like that huge flip flop between the two is really, really difficult, right? Kate said, yes, the contradicting messages too, especially if they have the type of ADHD that comes with low self-esteem, rejection sensitivity, and a tendency toward people pleasing. Essentially, if they haven't done work on their sense of identity outside albius structures, makes them susceptible. Oh my God, you guys, sorry. Makes them susceptible to predatory marketing practices. It hijacks their brain chemistry and ability to make decisions for themselves. Yes, I love that, right? It's basically like we have all this patterning and then all this messaging comes in that says you're supposed to be this way, you need to be this way, and if you don't, you'll be rejected, you're not good enough, you're not making people happy. It's so hard to get out of that. And I think again, as women, like it can feel like the way to make everyone happy is to like have all the success and make all the money, but be the most present mom and be with your children, every moment you can possibly be with them and, make it all look easy and like there's so much pressure. And that's what makes it really hard to stop contradicting ourselves all the time. Heather said also for me, the two ends of the spectrum that I don't have clarity on where I want to be will show up at different parts of my cycle. Ooh, interesting. That's a very interesting observation. I can definitely see that. Um, so that's why this gets hard because it is what stops momentum, right? So if you're building toward like let's say I'm building toward like really growing on social, for example, and we're really building towards that. And then all of a sudden we're like, but I hate this. Why am I here? I hate everything about this. I did. there is no part of you that's going to be able to like so fully overcome that the momentum isn't going to shift there when you're like, I hate this thing, I hate this thing, I hate this thing. And I'm like using dramatic language, but it doesn't even have to be that dramatic in your brain, right? But it really does feel like you're hitting a brick wall. And then it'll be kind of like confirmation bias because you'll feel like you're hitting a brick wall and then you'll be like, see, social suck. Not only does it suck in all these ways, but now I'm not getting traction. And it's like, well, that's because we kind of stopped the momentum. It felt like we were hitting a brick wall and it becomes this, self-fulfilling prophecy. And so we'll talk about other examples than social, but I think that's such a good one of like these constant contradictions that we find ourselves in make it so hard to do all the other stuff that we need to do, have strategy, execute really consistently, get, our team members on board and behind us. All of those things require a lot of clarity and a lot of alignment that these contradictions do not like provide for us, right? Julie said yes regarding social. I was torn and flip-flopping for 2 years about whether I should go all in on Instagram or LinkedIn. Career and leadership coach. So I waffled for almost 2 years and then finally said, fuck it. I hate LinkedIn. So I'm just going to point to my IG. Yes. Love that, Julie. It's so helpful to see that, right? And it's like you probably weren't building momentum on either one because you were like, oh, I could here, but like, oh, I don't even like this, but like maybe my people aren't here, but like, da, da, da. And it's like such an intense contradiction that then makes it so hard to grow. And I think that then we externalize that. We're like, oh, the platform makes it really hard to grow, or this makes it really hard. And like, obviously, there are objectively things going on in our space right now. I'm not trying to make light of that, but I do think it's really helpful to check your own contradictions as like a first starting point, because they are there so much more than we often think. And so I also feel like another place this happens is like with the level of support we give clients. I think a lot of people get in contradiction here. Like they'll say stuff like, I really, really, really want to support my clients in a high touch way, but like I don't want to be on calls at all, and I don't want to have anyone depending on me, and I don't want to, but I really want high touch support, and I really want to be the person giving it. And it's like that's such a contradiction. And typically, people that are in that situation will change their offers like a million times, or they have the opposite contradiction where they're like, I don't like, high touch support. I don't want to give that at all. That's not fun for me. But equally, I think I'm supposed to be doing one-on-one because I think that's the fastest way to make more money. And so I'm in constant contradiction here. I don't like this thing. I hate this thing, but I think I need this thing to make more money. And so I'm like this all the time. And this tends to be when we see someone changing their offers all the time and thinking if they just tweak it this much, then it will feel better to them. Or, if I just do one-on-one with this type of Voxer instead of this, or if I just do a program in this way, and it becomes so challenging. And I think quite honestly, as a coach, it's quite challenging to coach around that too, because typically when we're in those massive contradictions, we're living in one or the other from day to day. And we feel very strongly in the one that we're in, we're like, no, my program has to change. Like, I'm so uncomfortable. It has to change. Or it's like, no, I like hate this thing. I don't want to do this thing. No, but I really need to do this thing because of this. And obviously as a coach, that's what we are supposed to coach through and be like, hey, see these reflections. Here's what I hear you saying. I hear you saying you really want this, but you're knowing this and da, da, da. But like, you have to be quite skilled, I think, as a coach to be willing to consistently point out all these contradictions and to not just ride the wave of wherever that client is coming in that day. Because if you ride the wave with them too much, then y'all are all just living in this contradiction all the time. And it's just going to feel like this, right? And like no momentum is going to get built. And I think that, a lot of us are scared to call that out because it takes being like, I hear how much you want this right now. And equally, I want to remind you about this other thing. And I think sometimes as coaches, we can get scared about saying like, almost like you can't have it all at once, or like you're saying you want this, but also you wanted that. And like, I think that sometimes in our industry, we can feel like, well, who am I to tell a client, they can't have it the way they want to have it? And like, that's true in a sense, like we should not be putting our, beliefs or limitations on clients, but equally, like we are there to show them blind spots, and contradictions are often one of those really big blind spots. Julie said exactly. I'd concentrate on one or the other for 3 months at a time, and it really stalled out my growth. Such a good example. Thank you for being so open with us and sharing that. I think that makes so much sense. Kate said, yes, the supposed to. If we can get better at identifying the supposed tos, it's easier to contradict less. Right. Because so much of this contradiction isn't even ours. It's just like, I'm like moving in one direction, then I see someone's post telling me I should be moving in another. And all of a sudden I feel really bad about it. Or, I have like one experience where, a client was unhappy or something happened. And so then I think I have to change everything. And I feel like it's just so helpful to see how easy it is to find ourselves in this back and forth, and how important it is that we have, support that's willing to call that out. Kate said, haha, working with ND clients, I see it as my job to bring their ass down to reality so they can make their big goals happen. Exactly. Exactly. Like, I mean, I think obviously very true neurodivergent clients, but equally, I think it's just true across the board is like sometimes we have to be like, hey, if we can ground for a minute, it's so much faster to get where we want to go. If we're up here and floating around between like ideas and goals and paths, so much harder to like land the plane and really run at something. So I think this is exactly it. Another thing is there is definitely like a push-pull, I think, for a lot of people between like I want to run at this and I want to do it messy and I just want to like get it all out there. And then equally that same contradiction of like, I should slow down. I should be more strategic. I should be so much more polished and professional. Right. So that's another way I think a lot of people contradict themselves in slow momentum is that they bring this like energy of like, I just want to do it. It's fine if it's not perfect. I'm just going to like throw it all out there and whatever. And then as soon as they start doing it, they're like, oh, no, this is totally not safe. Like, big contradiction coming in. I actually want it to be like so much more professional and I want it to be like so much more perfect. And, again, like these are all symptoms of a bigger thing for people typically where it's like, is it self-trust? Is it perfectionism? Is it all of this stuff? But like the contradictions they bring up are like the red flags that we need to see. So in that case, it's like that swing between like, I kind of want to do it messy and I need it to be like so perfectly buttoned up and tied up. Like this is one that I see people slow their momentum on in such a big way. Like they'll come to a call one week and be like, okay, like let's just get out there. If we were just going to do it as quickly and as messy as possible, what would we do? And we like come up with a whole plan for it. And then they'll come back for the next call and be like, okay, actually like that was like really intense, like way too messy, too fast. Like, what does it look like if we're gonna like really be super planful and thoughtful? And then we do that plan. And then they come back the next week and be like, hey, I think that was gonna take too long. All right. And as a coach, you have to be like, no. Like we are in a pattern, we are in a massive contradiction. And we have just made 2.5 plans, none of which are getting executed because of this massive swing. And so, like that is just a perfect example because I just illustrated like what it looks like to waste 2 to 3 weeks in your business. And obviously 2 to 3 weeks is like nothing in the grand scheme of things, but like that's assuming you even get it figured out right then. That pattern could go on for 6 months if your coach is just kind of like riding the wave with you either way. And honestly, even if the coach isn't riding the wave with you and is going, hey, you're in a contradiction again. Hey, you're in a contradiction again. Like sometimes someone doesn't want to see that. I think it's really easy in our space to kind of be like, oh, my coach just doesn't like get my vision or, it is slowing me down or isn't at my level. Like I've heard different versions of people say things like that over time. And I'm always really curious to like, well, what was that dynamic? Because like most coaches aren't trying to slow your momentum. You know what I mean? Most coaches are trying to be like, yo, I want to help you get there. But like this back and forth is hard to track, you know? Christina said, oh, this is my life as a social media coach, right? Because it's like, I think social media is a perfect example of that. Like, oh, I just want to get it all out there, do it as messy as possible. Like, I imagine that you have people, Christina, that are like, going to post 7 days a week. I want to do this. I want to do this. And then they come back and they're like, way too much. Those were all not perfect. Like, now I need to have a better plan and be even more tangible. And then they're like, okay, so I'm going to post 3 times this week. And then they come back and they're like, oh, wait, I want to post more. What are we doing? I want to grow faster. Like it's so chaotic. And again, it's like not even like intentional. Maggie said I've been in that pattern for sure. All of my progress has always been made when I go all in on something, anything, anything. That point that Maggie made, it's like literally anything. If you're just like, okay, I'm doing this, it almost doesn't matter the choice. It matters that I'm all in on it. Hey, Laura. Um, Christina said 1 week it's views and 1 week it's I need to slow down to be authentic, but because people are being seen, all these issues are coming up. Exactly. Like it's so much deeper than just the contradiction, but that is like the example of the shit it's, stirring up for all of us. Um, and like Kate said, the client is not always available or ready to break a pattern, right? So it's like, even if you're like the best coach in the world, calling out these contradictions, showing them someone might not be in a place where they can do that, or it depends on like what your level of coaching is. Like first, like Christina being like a very strategic Instagram coach, like can't always spend 5 weeks diving into the mindset of something with someone either, right? So it's like this is all really based on like a client taking a pretty high level of personal responsibility on these reflections and either getting support to handle them or being like, I just need to pick a thing. um, but what's helpful to see is the contradictions can be very, very big, or they can be very small. Like it can be as big as like, oh my God, I need to grow as fast as possible. And also I need a ton of spaciousness. And like those are always feuding. Like I feel like that's a really big one for a lot of women. Or it can be really small. Like, what is do I want views or engagement? Or do I want this or that? Like even those like little things week to week that you change your mind on can be so huge. Like I remember saying to a client not all that long ago about social, I was like, what if you just went all in on views? Like you just focused on reach and you got yourself to a point where you were like, I really know I can nail reach. And then we worry about all the rest. And like the amount of shit that brought up for her was wild. Hold on, I want to read what Kate said. She said, I think assessing the pattern, naming the pattern, and seeing if there are ways to get ready to break the pattern, they have to at least be willing to hear it, look at it. Absolutely. Yeah. And Maggie said, and they have to have the capacity. Totally. Julie said guilty. Do you feel like the try it for 90 days is still a good rule of thumb? For sure. I think that at least starts the momentum. I think honestly now it's a lot of stuff can take longer than 90 days to really build. But I think typically if you can see yourself doing that for 90 days and you can really commit to that, it's quite easy to maintain it after that. I think that's like most things. I think I've shared this on here, but I've been like back in June, end of June, I think. I was like, I'm just gonna like really be more consistent with my workouts all in. And it took quite a bit of lift to like add that extra bit of consistency in that I just didn't have then. And I remember it feeling like, wow, mentally, this is such a lift. And now I'm like, I don't even think about it. Like, we traveled this week. We went to Disney for multiple days, and I still like got all my workouts in, and it just took so little effort. Um, Not none, but so much less than it was, right? And so I just say that to say, like, at 90 days, I think at least the ease of execution is more there. And so most people are going to find it easier to continue on from that. Laura said, yes, I always compare this to fitness, right? Like any of these things, like, again, like you can have all those things. Like you can, like, we'll use Christina's example. You can be wildly authentic on social and still getting really, really, really good reach or views. And you may have to focus on one as a starting point and then weave the other in. Like nobody's telling you can't have all the things you want, but equally, sometimes having them all at once is what keeps us so stuck because we're trying all of these contradictory things on top of each other at the moment. And it's really, really difficult to get all of it. So like an another example, like if we're talking about the big picture of like growth versus spaciousness, like so often if someone will let themselves really, really focus on a growth season, they can get spaciousness for after that, right? Do you know what I mean? They're like, okay, I'm in like this really big growth season, and then I am intentionally planning for spaciousness, post that. Like maybe it's whatever, like a 6 month sprint you're going on. And then you're like, cool. And then like the second half of the year, I'm like planning in a lot more family trips and I'm taking it easier and I'm getting my team up to speed and whatever. And you will end the year feeling like, wow, we really grew this year. And I really feel like got the time in with my family I wanted and got to take the trips I wanted. But that might look different than all of it happening on top of each other. But like you could still look back at your year and be like, yeah, every box got checked. That's awesome. Or you can look back at your year and be like, gosh, I was in conflict with myself 24/7. Like when I was growing, I thought I should be doing more with my family. When I was with my family, I thought I should be growing. And like, wow, I didn't make the progress I really wanted to on any front this year. And I just feel icky about it. And it's like, it's almost because you were trying to hold all of it all at once, all the time. And then you end up making yourself wrong because of it. But like, if you would have just let it happen, in pockets throughout the year, you would be looking back at your year being like, yeah, all the boxes got checked. Um, Christina said you can have it all, but not all at once. So true in every piece of biz. Yes. Laura said, and in life, money, everything overall. Totally. I think that like that's really hard for all of us to like acknowledge, I think like, there's a million examples, but I even think about like when I was had just gotten divorced and was like really in the phase of dating, like what I had more time for at that point, or what I was giving my time to at that point was dating. Like I was not massively building up my female friendships at that point. Like I was kind of just like, maintaining the ones I have. Like I had focus, like singular focus. I was like, I'm dating. I want a partner, right? But if I had been like, oh, I'm dating, but also this is my time to pour into all my friendships and I want to be in, like have so many more friendships, but I also want to be going on all these dates every week and like it's not that I can't have great friendships and a partner. It's just that like all of that all at once, all on top of each other does not physically work. And when we try to put ourselves in spaces and goals and business strategies that do not physically work, it is so complicated. Like hands down, I think that a lot of us do this to ourselves with really, really small kids where we have like very, very small kids and we're like, and I should be pushing myself super, super, super hard. And listen, like maybe for someone that is the right time. I don't know. But like for me, like when I had like a, you know, whatever, 6 month old, like the last thing I needed was to be in a season of pushing myself as hard as possible. Like I could have, I'm sure it would have been fine, but I probably would have felt like shit for a lot of it. So I think there's just so many examples of this, but where we just live in this like massive contradiction. And like, it's actually like well studied that it's very, very hard for our brains to hold that. And so that's why we vacillate so hard to one or the other. And then two, I think it's like the ultimate thing is it just stops our growth. It stops our momentum. Like we literally cannot build up the speed or the ease. Like we can't be that snowball like, rolling down the mountain that gets faster and faster and bigger because of the momentum. It's stopping every time. It never gets to build it. Um, Christina said, I feel like oh my God, I cannot read today, you guys. I feel like comparison in other people's marketing confuses us and makes us jump from thing to thing. 100%. I feel like it's also one of those things where we're often reading from people who have been in business for a really long time, who have had the time in the game to have those seasons of growth and those seasons of spaciousness and the seasons where they really built the team and the seasons where they pulled back more. And so for me, like 10 years in, I can talk about that in a totally different way. Like I am in a season where I have like a really strong team and a lot of flexibility that I maybe didn't have and like income growth and all of that was built on seasons where I focused on one. But 10 years in, obviously that's what you're going to get. And so I think that some of that is the problem in our industry too, is that a lot of people are learning. Sorry, I have to do this or I'm not going to be able to think straight. Okay. A lot of people are like hearing this, like you can have it all right now message from someone who has built that in their business, but it did take some time to get there. Equally, I do believe how you build it is how you will experience it. Like if you're constantly putting yourself through hell to build it, it's probably going to feel like hell when you have it. So I'm not saying that that's the point here. But I am saying that this idea of like, can you really focus on one thing and build the evidence, self-trust, and momentum to get it? and then focus on the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Like that is how businesses where you feel like you have everything are actually really built, you know? Um, Maggie said yes last year in perimenopause hell. I was like, what is the minimum viable business I can run with what I have going on here physically and emotionally? And honestly, Maggie, that like I cannot tell you the wisdom in that. And that is the thing a lot of business owners will not give themselves. And that is why a lot of people don't have longevity in our space because of the thing Christina is saying, which is that we hear all these messages from other people and we think, well, it must just be easier for them. They must be better at it. I must be missing something, whatever. And when we need a year where we're like, minimum viable opportunity, what is possible here? We won't give it to ourselves because we feel like that would be so wrong or it would screw up everything or it would whatever. This is what keeps people in business for years and years and years is that you're willing to have the year of that. And then you're willing to have the year of growth and you're willing to have the year of whatever community, et cetera, et cetera. Like all of that builds over time, but you kind of have to like let yourself be willing to do that, you know? Um, I feel like this for me was more my year of like community. I've gone to like more events and done more in-person stuff. I'm having my own in-person event here. And then it's 3 now. Like I could not have had a year of community when he was 1 and 2 and he wasn't fucking sleeping. And all of that. It doesn't mean I didn't have community any of those years. It just was not like the main thing. And so if somebody had been talking about community in those years, I probably would have been like, well, I could be doing a better job of that right now. And equally, it's not my moment. Um, so we have to be really careful of like what we're letting in and what we're making it mean. And just because something's not your moment right then, it doesn't mean it's not in a few months or in the next year. It's just being able to have that discernment and practice not contradicting yourself so much in it that you end up with a business where you're just chasing like not even the wrong things, but you're just chasing so many things that it's impossible to catch any of them. So true in a world that's so distracted and just, oh my gosh, you guys, distracted and full of shiny object syndrome, focusing on one thing and keeping it simple is key. Absolutely. Thank you for normalize that you don't need to be pushing in all seasons. It's okay and normal to have maintenance seasons because life happens. It is not just okay and normal. It is crucial to be willing to have a maintenance season sometimes. There is no possible way that I could have been pushing for the last 10 years. Like I would not have a business right now. I don't even know if I would have a body right now. I'm kidding. But do you know what I mean? Like if I had been pushing myself for 10 fucking years, like, and to me, I don't want a business that just makes a lot of money for 3 years and then I have to like give up or goes away or I like make myself, so burnt out I can't run it. I want a business that is going to stick with me. And so I'm not saying growth seasons are wrong. They're so good. They're so important. They're so required. And equally, if they are not also, held up by what did you call it? Maintenance seasons, which I really like. They're not also held up by maintenance seasons. Like they mean nothing. And honestly, sometimes it's not even maintenance, it's calibration. Sometimes after you've had a big growth season, you need to be like, whoa, let's recalibrate our infrastructure to hold all of this. Do we have the right team to hold all of this? Do we have the right systems? Do we have the right automations? Do we have the right strategy? Like, so it's not always just like you're not doing anything either. But sometimes it's being like, we just had massive growth and we need to make sure our business can hold that. Because if our business can't hold that, we can't go to the next level or we're going to fall back down because our clients are going to be so unhappy that we're not able to hold all of this. Um, I love this that you can take the space and it doesn't ruin everything because it doesn't, and it can fuel you so well. Totally. Yeah. Like again, sometimes the space looks like, hey, we're making sure everything's like operating really well, or we're, getting ourselves ready for that next season or that next level of growth. And we're like getting our team in the right place, or we're getting our brain and body in the right place, or whatever. But, I think as we kind of enter this phase of our industry where so many of us have been in it for so much longer. I feel like there was a time where our industry was just so new and it's like the longest people had been in it was like, 4 years or something like that. It's like so different. But when we're talking about like being in it for so long, there has to be part of this. And equally, like, obviously I had more push seasons when I had more time, didn't have a child, and was newer in business. I mean, like, I think that's just normal. Um, Laura said, I think about my business and existing to support my life and me living my joy. So it also needs to morph with my life. Totally. Elisa said yes, and also being able to relish in the current moment and enjoy the work. 100%. I think about that all the time. I'm like, if my business like never made more money, would I be okay? Like, would I be happy here? Hands down, 100%. Yes. Like, if I just made this amount of money that I'm making this year for like every subsequent year, and I did this for 20 more years, would I be happy? Like, yeah, I really like what I'm doing. Which again is also where you want to pay attention to the contradiction. If you're like, I absolutely cannot stand what I'm doing, and so doing this for another 10 years seems horrific, like it is going to be really hard to make more money doing what you're doing because you're literally building on the idea that it grows. And if you don't want to keep doing this and don't want it to keep growing, you're going to be in contradiction. I mean, it's that simple, right? That's why I like talk about how much it matters that you like the work. And again, it doesn't mean you don't have to do hard things sometimes, or you don't have to like try different things to see what you like and decide what fits you. Like all of that is part of it. But if you know something no longer fits and you're not willing to go, hey, this doesn't fit at all, like you are in a contradiction, like you're trying to grow something that you don't want to grow. Like you can do that sometimes. Like you can force a boulder up a hill, but it almost always will roll back down and squish you. Um, I think that some people get so frustrated by that, like where they're like, no, like I just want like, what is the smartest business thing I can do? And it's like, to me, the smartest business thing you can do is pick something you can get fully on board with. And that can sound so cheesy and so not strategic, but like I've just seen this long enough where it's like you can definitely get on board with something you don't like for a period of time. My first marriage. No, I'm kidding. um, um, but like seriously, I made myself do a lot of shit that like was more because of how it looked, like get this certain job or get multiple degrees or whatever. Like we can all force something, but like most of us know that there comes a time where we are like, I cannot fake it or force it anymore. And it's so much scarier to do that when you've built it up to a certain point that it's scary to walk away from. So it is so much better to do that earlier on, you know? And again, we're talking about the oh damn girl, I know. Just came to me and I had to throw it out there. We're talking about like the bigger aspects, but again, there are so many little aspects that this happens in all the time. Like, how much money do you want to make this month? Or like how easeful do you want your launch, or how hard, like all in do you want to be, or whatever. Like you're constantly faced with these decisions. And that's what's really hard about being an entrepreneur is like you're drawing on a blank sheet of paper, you know? There's nothing that's like making a lot of these decisions for you. So you are the one at the helm of kind of all of this, and you have to be the one watching out for the contradictions. Um, Christina said this, I see so many clients tell me what they think will be successful versus what they actually want. And then they can't actually get to their big goals because there's zero alignment. Exactly. They're like, well, I think this will be the most successful. And so let me try it. And then it's like, they can't create success at the thing they think was like guaranteed to be successful. And it's like, because you don't like that thing, because it doesn't fit you, whatever. You know what I mean? I tell people that all the time about the partnership model. Like when people are like, oh, do you think I should do that? I'm like, listen, maybe. I think there are really good parts to it. And I think there are really challenging parts to it. And I think if that like fully aligns for you, it might be great for your business. And I think if you're just doing it because you think it's a way to make money off one-on-one, I would like highly, highly encourage you not to. Because like with anything, like you gotta be really all in on it. Um, and I think like, to be honest, I think A Lit Up Life is such an example of that. Like, why do we have a huge wait list? Because I've been all in on one-on-one for like, 8 years. Why, do we have really long-term clients? Because I'm all in on that. Like I try to remove as many contradictions as I possibly can to stay like focused on the thing. And I don't mean it has to be like singularly focused on one offer, but I just mean like I'm not always like, oh, you know what? I should capitalize on that wait list more. Maybe I should go throw this group program out to them. Maybe I should. I'm like, it's okay if we have people waiting. This is what I'm doing. Like I'm not making that wrong in my head, right? Laura said it's a scary leap to do what you love versus what you think, often based on seeing others will work for you. Totally. It's so fucking hard. And it's not what we're conditioned for. It's not what we're taught. It's not like, on a very big scale, like women are not taught that um, our pleasure, our joy, our desires are good compasses. They are, especially if you're building your own business. They're a really, 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 really important compass. Um, and equally, like sometimes it's true that even that gets, what's the word I want to use? Um, Foggy because we're like, well, I really do want to grow and I really do want space and I really do want to grow on social, but I really don't want to have to like social. Like, even our desires can be confusing sometimes. So I'm not trying to say like that's the only point here. But the point I really think is the fastest path to growth, the thing that will stall your moment or the fastest path to growth that will take out all of that stall in momentum that happens is to look at where your contradictions are, notice them, see them, and work through them as quickly as possible. It is not to go bounce from one to the other, to the other, to the other, because we all can get caught up in that. And we can do that, like Julie was saying earlier, we can do that for years, right? It doesn't mean you won't grow, it doesn't mean you won't have a good business, but the amount of tension that can build in doing that for a long time will not be fun, and it will be so much harder to grow than it should be. So I think this is a reminder for ourselves. It's also a reminder if you're a coach, like call out those contradictions, like be willing to say, like, what are we doing here? I feel like we're running in, several directions. And like Kate said, sometimes somebody's going to be really open to that. Sometimes they're not, but that really is a big piece of our role is to note, call out, and name the contradictions, because if we can remove those, the path opens up and the growth is so much quicker. So I hope that helps. It's not an easy one, but it's an important one. And that's all I got. I'll be back next week. I'm gonna come on next week and share like a lot of the behind the scenes details, intentions, why I did it, all of these kind of things about the event, because I'm running my client event next weekend. And so I'm gonna be back next Monday and I'm gonna tell you guys all about that. I feel like I have so much to share after planning all this for quite some time. And so that will be next week. So I'll see you guys then. And I hope you have a beautiful week in the meantime. All right. Bye, y'all.